Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Dojo Live, connecting with tech experts like you. My name is Kim Lantis, joining you from Nearsoft's Hermosillo, Sonora office, and I'm joining you for the first time in a long time. It's very good to be back. Also joining us is my fellow teammate and co-host, Carlos Ponce from our Mexico City office. Are you at the office or are you at home? I can't tell.
No, I'm at home. Remember the condition our offices is in because of the earthquake?
That's true, but you've
I'm
got the
not
Nearsoft
going.
orange there in the background.
Yeah.
So it looks like I made it back just in time today, as this is going to be our final interview for 2017. Isn't that right, Carlos?
That is correct.
That is correct. So for our 11th and final interview of Season 4, Travel Edition, we'll be chatting with Edward Ulmer, director and owner of Barefoot Technologies. Hi, Edward. He's
Hello,
here.
thank you.
Hello, you're
I'm
welcome.
privileged to
So
have you
you're here.
back.
Yes, finally. So you're here to talk to us about vacation company relevance in the age of large portals. So basically, we're here to discuss how using technology can help travel companies compete in and dominate their market. And you can probably help share some of your words of wisdom on how to choose your market as well as you're going against those large portals, the monopolizers, right?
Sure.
Perfect. So welcome to Dojo Live.
Thank you very much. Really excited about this.
Thank you. So why don't we get started? You can just tell us a bit more about yourself, please, Ed, and Barefoot Technologies.
Sure, I guess I'll start with myself. Have a tech background. Been in this industry for about 15 years. Prior to that, I was the director of tourism in Bar Harbor, Maine, and in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Two tourist destinations that typically are drive-through markets or at the end of the stop. In particular, Bar Harbor, people would go on a 7-day trip. They'd start in Boston, they'd drive up, they'd get there about day 5 and go, what the heck, I can't believe I missed all of this. Now I have no time. So we actually had packaging, we really focused on niche, on branding, very much trying to get the word out, communication and so on. And Plymouth, honestly, was the same way. I have a real estate background as well. On the MLS board from Hampshire and Vermont, have my RSPS certification, because in the vacation rental industry, it is a combination of real estate, depending on what state you're in, and hospitality. Barefoot Technology, we're the oldest browser-based vacation rental software system on the market. We've been doing this since 1998, I guess.
Wow.
And, our average client is about 250 units, which puts us way at the top of the list of our competitors. There's no system out there that has that size of average client. About 20% of our clients have a second database that they manage more than one office. And we've got an 87% retention rate since 1999, which is remarkable, in part because we're designed to be tailored. We are a system where bigger companies come and say, you know what, 80%, it makes a lot of sense, but it's that 10% that is going to make all the difference in the world, or 15 or 20% that's going to make all the difference in the world when it comes to owning our markets.
Right.
That's Barefoot, kind of in a big picture perspective.
Well, congratulations on the longevity. That's amazing.
Yes.
We'll get back to that, I think, later in our chat today. So first, I guess, can you tell us why you chose your topic, the vacation company relevance?
It's actually, I just did a blog on our website, and I actually passed it on to you guys, and hopefully the audience gets a chance to take a peek at it. So I've been a longtime participant of VRMA, Vacation Rental Managers Association. I used to be on the conference committee, stepped away from it for a couple of years, and then came back this year and did a presentation basically on kind of this topic. And it was interesting because I did a presentation 3 or 4 years ago, and I got mixed reviews on it. And this year, I haven't heard the reviews back, but the event was at about 11 o'clock. And so it rolled into lunchtime. We still had people sitting around talking and asking questions 20 minutes after the session had ended.
Nice.
From my perspective, the event came across really strong. And I think the main reason it came across so strong is that there is a significant change going on in this industry. The bigger portals out there, the Expedias, the Airbnbs, the HomeAways, the Pricelines, the Booking.coms, and others have done a wonderful job of making this market into the up-and-coming hospitality focused market. There are more and more people going on holiday using a vacation rental than ever. And the question ends up being is, why are they choosing the location and the properties that they're choosing? And a lot of that has come from these larger portals. They have done a good job of defining the market, who they are, that they are the relevant player there. But the interesting thing is that none of them really own any inventory. They're just a booking system.
Right.
And the companies that use us are the real companies that are managing the properties. Now, most of my clients don't own anything either. They're just putting people together, similar to these larger portals. But the big difference is that my clients are local, that they are the local experts. They're the ones that are actually touching the clients face to face, building that wonderful vacation and so on. And also working with the owners who are the ones that really own the property, and working with them to accomplish what that owner's needs and desires are in owning that property.
Mm-hmm.
The you have, though, is that more people out there are seeing the big players as the end-all, be-all, and where one should book through. And from my perspective, there's definitely a place for them. They've done a wonderful job. But from my perspective, again, coming from the hospitality industry, when you go on vacation, it's not the flight costs. It's not the room that you stay in. It's that local situation, those connections and so on that build those memorable vacations.
Right.
And I think that the larger portals out there will never be able to do that completely. But the bottom line, they are becoming harder and harder to compete
against.
Yes, from the local side.
So how have you found that? So what I'm picking up from you is the idea of intimacy and personalization.
Yes.
Am I echoing? I hear myself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a little bit, but kind of. Yeah, it went away.
Okay, technology for you. So the intimacy and the personalization of that, which I can relate to. I mean, I've had the opportunity, somewhat limited, but more than others. Like I've been able to travel to Kenya, to Brazil, to Mexico, where I met my husband actually. And the form in which I did most of my international travels was actually through missions. And when you do that, it's really interesting because I think you get to live that local experience. Like you tend to stay in people's homes. You're eating the more local food and things. So it's like you're not getting that glitzy tourist necessarily side. And yet, like you just said, it's more memorable, and more of a fascinating experience. And so how are you, or is Barefoot doing, or companies like you, to compete, to dominate, to find that niche? How do you convince? Is there a need to convince people of that? Or do those people tend to find you on their own? What's that process?
Well, I guess the first thing is that we, as the software provider, do not actively promote for guests. We are not a portal like HomeAway and Airbnb and all of those. What we are is the technology behind the local property management real estate company asset manager. And they all have their own websites, and many of them, most of them, actually at certain times of the year link out to these third-party portals to help them drive business.
Right.
We're pretty much the center of that client's universe. Our system ties to HomeAway. It does the credit card process. It ties to their website. We have guest access. We have owner access. We have all of those pieces.
So you're like the personal concierge, like the bridge between your clients and the big guys.
Yes, we're the software that basically manages all of that personal concierges and so on.
And since 1998, so really at the start of all of the idea of internet booking.
Absolutely. We were the first browser system in the industry. Pretty much everybody before us was DOS and there were a few Windows folks. And it was quite fascinating back then because most people would be like, well, I don't want browser-based. Where's the browser going? I don't even know anything about that. I want Windows. So it's been a long, interesting process. But the wonderful thing about it is because we've always been browser-based, we've always been able to take advantage of the benefits of a browser-based system. While a lot of our competition has come from the Windows and DOS environment, and they're still not taking advantage of some of the wonderful things that a browser system can do because they're still thinking like those older systems. So
what are the wonderful things? Your upper hand.
Sure, absolutely. Well, number one is we can update on a monthly basis, and we often do that.
Which is critical in the travel industry.
It truly is, especially in this industry because it is growing so quickly. There's so many things going on. If I was to look at what the priorities were 2 or 3 years ago, or a year ago, or even 6 months ago, it is just changing so quickly. Part of the reason of that is because this is a very immature market. It is catching up quickly with the rest of the hospitality industry.
Mm-hmm.
And, credit cards, when we started, we were one of the first systems to have credit card, processing built into our system. Hotels have been doing that for 20, 30, 40 years. It's crazy. So the bottom line is the one big thing is that we're able to update on a regular basis. Number two is we can support that unique functionality. So we're a system that's designed to be tailored. And in the old days, in a Windows environment or a DOS environment, you had one system. And to support anything, you have to be able to duplicate it. So if you have a system sitting under your desk and another system sitting under somebody else's desk and you have a problem, you have to be able to duplicate that, which basically means that everybody needs to be on the same system. In a browser world, you don't. I can actually, I'm in most cases hosting all my clients, so I can actually log into their system and see exactly what they're dealing with and fix that. And that's one of the benefits of being able to be tailored and so on. The other great thing about it is I can be very consultative because I can look at their system and look at their issues and have those conversations with them instead of just kind of them being a number, if you will. So those are probably three of the big ones. I would say a smaller one is that a browser system, when most people talk about being a cloud system, most people go, oh yeah, you can access the system via the internet. Well, I can do more than that. I can actually tie to other software products that are browser-based and pull them into what I call my hub and make it as seamless as possible. We always try and do two-way integrations and make it as seamless for the client as possible because they're very short on time. They can either be managing their data and typing letters and stuff like that, or they can be having conversations with their owners and their guests and building memorable vacations.
So what was your aha moment as a software? You were a developer, right? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So way back in 1998, what made you decide, you know what, we're doing browser? Like for those entrepreneurs out there who are starting something, what did you learn from that? Like to think big, to go beyond, to be forward thinking. How did that happen for you?
I would love to say that it was that I had the aha moment, but the interesting thing is we were a product, a DOS-based product before, but a very small product. And the person that was actually building the thing out went, wait a minute, this has only got it's got a short shelf life. And we really should start looking at other kind of models. And most people were moving to Windows at the time. And he just brought the right type of people in going, wait a minute, we need to be browser, and that's the way we need to go. It took us some time to convince other people that made sense.
Forward thinking mixed with luck then.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Perfect. Carlos, what about you? Do you have questions for Ed?
Oh yeah, certainly do. But before we jump into that, I'd like to remind the audience that should you have any questions for Ed whatsoever, you can do so on Twitter. And here's our Twitter handle right here at DojoLIVE. You can see that. At DojoLIVE. You know how to use Twitter, right? So go ahead and do that and send it over, and then we'll read him back to Ed. And he'll be responding here live. Or if you're watching later, at a later time on our website, you can do that too. All right. So, Ed, well, here's something that I kind of always ask folks who, especially those who have kind of been around, and in technology, when you're more than 10 years around, you have been around, right? So you have been here for a long time.
And so
So,
are me.
well, considering the time that you have been in the industry, and I'm kind of sure that you have witnessed a lot of changes, a lot of challenges overcome, so on and so forth. In that sense, I'd like to ask you, as far as the effectiveness of the technology, its increasing effectiveness, can you say that technology be used with equal effectiveness to compete and dominate any market, regardless of the vertical or space, or in travel for that matter?
Oh, absolutely. The two probably most important things from our industry that could be passed to pretty much any industry is communication management. In other words, automating the processes that you do on a day-to-day basis that don't need to be done manually. And then to tie to that, the whole concept of automation and so on. For us, it's about making reservations and bookings and stuff like that, which can be done on the web side of things. I mean, Amazon is showing that anything can be purchased online. There's some advantages to it, and there's some disadvantages to it. And each product, it comes really down to trust of that, which ties back to that whole communication side of things. So I really believe that any industry can benefit from the whole automation and communication side of things, especially the hospitality side of things.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Probably my biggest thing is that you can either be entering bookings and stuff like that and sending letters out, or you can actually have meaningful conversations with people that are coming to see you.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And in this context, and especially now we're trying to covering travel tech.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned meaningful conversations. So it kind of struck me. What do you think about in this environment? What do you think about things like chatbots, for example, or AI? Things like that. How does this mesh, if applicable? What does this mesh with what you're doing with Barefoot and the other portals?
Sure. Well, there's to some degree a level of AI with all of our software in this industry, in part when it comes to dynamic pricing and so on. When you have occupancy levels at certain levels, the systems should have the ability to be able to charge up or charge down based off of communication that is occurring. So I mean, that's one example of, I would call, some form of AI. It's obviously going to get more and more complex the more data that's being shared. Again, as I said earlier, in this industry, we're way behind the hotel side. Mm-hmm. So there are only a few companies that are out there currently that do some of the stuff that Smith Travel has historically done on the hotel side. Mm-hmm. Destinametrics, VR Intel, HomeAway is coming out with some management of numbers and stuff like that. So the more big data that we have, the more that we can do interesting and creative things. And then going back to the CRM side of things, being able to provide reasonable and interesting offers to clients or prospects is very important. On the chat side of things, we haven't seen a lot of chat in this industry yet. In part because it is one of those industries where people are making reservations or wanting to make reservations 24/7. And so if you offer something but it's not available, you kind of messing with the expectation a little bit there. Mm-hmm. Two is that a lot of chat is kind of, you have an order taker and then they push people off to more deep, more relevant types of conversations. Almost anybody that's making a phone call to book a reservation at this point is probably asking some deeper, more interesting questions. So it's a little more complicated to handle that in a reasonable financial way. But I will say that some of the bigger, smarter companies are starting to do more and more of that, and that's part of our plan as well.
Cool. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kim, we seem to be approaching the final segment, the final minutes of today's interview. So, do you have any more anything else for Ed?
Well, my only question is, okay, so Barefoot Technologies has been around since 1998, which is
Yep.
coming up on 20 years.
Very
Um,
good.
my assumption, I don't think it's assumption, I'm pretty sure that I know that you've had to have make a lot of adaptations and learn a lot over those last 20 years. So what are some ways that you have had to adapt, and what are some of your biggest lessons learned as a successful businessman and entrepreneur in technology?
Uh, Probably the biggest thing is to really listen to our clients. I think that's probably the most important thing. They're out there day by day, trying to understand and adapt and own their markets. As I said, we're very fortunate. We've got the big guys, the guys that have dominated their markets, Dollywood, Long and Foster, are two examples of that. And we're able to adapt and listen to their needs and issues. You'll notice I mentioned an amusement park, which most people go, oh, wait, that's not a vacation rental company. Well, yes, you'd be surprised at what is a vacation rental company now than it was 20 years ago. Honestly, more and more hotels are becoming vacation rental companies as they condoize. And then, of course, Long and Foster, which is a real estate company, and most people don't think of them as a vacation rental company. But the reality is real estate is very, very tied to the whole vacation rental market. And up to this point, I've really talked about the guest side of things. But the one significant advantage that we have, it's an advantage and a disadvantage, I guess, in the vacation rental market, is that we actually have two partners, the guest and the owner. And what we have really realized is providing our clients with remarkable owner capabilities is probably one of the most important things that we do, because the reality is without that inventory, they're out of business. It doesn't matter how many guests are coming to their website. If they don't have the right niche for that guest,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter. Some of the examples that we've done with the owner side of things is we were the first company to come out with an owner portal. And our owner portal gives the owner the ability to get very, very deep into the process of managing their own property. The interesting thing, I mean, you've heard about rent by owner, vacation rent by owner, those types of things, which is a competitor to the managed side of things, which our software works with, is the managed side of things. So how do you get managed companies to help manage the RVO? You empower them. You give them, the owners, tools so that they can be part of the process at varying levels and so on. The other thing too is, and this is something that came out in my presentation, is that most vacation rental companies consider themselves property management. And property management is, I fix a problem when it comes up. It's about as far as it goes though. But the interesting thing is that what these companies really should be doing is thinking of themselves as asset managers. And when you think of an asset manager, you think of somebody that manages a stock portfolio. And the reality is they are very similar. I mean, you may have a stock portfolio. You have a stock portfolio. You're trying to invest in the future. You're trying to figure out how to make money so that you can be better off in the future. Well, interestingly enough, most people, their biggest asset is their property. So why aren't we, as property managers, thinking deeper than I just need to fix it here and now? Why aren't we asking the questions that most asset managers will ask, like, why did you buy this property? How long are you going to hold on to it? Is anything changed? What kind of risk are you looking for? What's your return on investment? And when you start to do those types of things, all of a sudden the owner goes, who's an RBO at heart, because they all want to talk about their own property, but may not want to do much more than that, goes, wait a minute, you really are here. I trust you. And you're going to give me the tools that I need to trust you even more, which allows the property management company to present that property to the guests who you have been working on the trust side of things as well. Trust is very much probably the biggest thing that we've learned. It's the most important thing. The owner needs to trust you. The guest needs to trust you. interesting little thought is when you look at most of the fraud that's occurred in vacation rentals, it has either happened because of RVOs or it's happened because of the portals. Very rarely is there any fraud that occurs from the local property management / asset manager and their website and so on, because they're there. And if it's a problem, they can knock on the door. There's a face, there's a reputation. They've been there for years. They offer concierge, and they offer, all of the services that an owner and a guest would need because of the local expert.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So as we're reaching the end, Ed, is there anything? There, I had echo again. There we go.
There you go.
Sorry. I don't know why that is. How, if people are interested in knowing more about you or Barefoot or getting a hold of you, how might they do so?
Our website is www.barefoot.com, like taking your shoes off, not like the animal. That's probably the best way to get us. It's a great website. We've got we've been doing this for a while. We've got a bunch of testimonials. We're happy to give demos. We're at a lot of the shows as well. We honestly just like having conversations with people because this is an industry of trust. And people don't switch software very often. Mm-hmm. And our retention rate, once they come to us, they never switch. And that's a good thing because it really does come down to trust and happiness. And that's us, barefoot.com.
Nice. It's glad to hear that companies are still focused on trust and happiness above the bottom line. And I think the key there is when you have those two things, your bottom line is always secure. And I think that's something that both Barefoot and Nearsoft can agree on.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to throw one last thing out, is that in this industry, it's one of the few industries where you truly get an opportunity to affect a person. There are only 3 or 4 times in one's life: having babies, getting married, kids graduating, and going on vacation. So
right.
Clients are people, and we have to be the same way.
That's a very wonderful insight. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that brings us to the end of the end of the end.
The end of this year's season 4, by the way.
Episode of season 4 DojoLIVE. Ed, you were a great guest to go out on a high note, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, happy holidays, happy new year, and we'll see you all again, hopefully, with season 5. Keep tuned in to our website as well, DojoLIVE.com, and Twitter to let us keep track of when we're
Kim. Actually, Kim, for the time being, let me just you need to hang out with us more often, Kim. It's dojo.nearsoft.com. Don't forget that.
Right. Hey, I have an excuse. I still have.
You do. Your excuse. Absolutely. All right. So again, thank you so much, Ed, for having been with us today, and we're going to be in touch, and we might be sending you. Just let us know where we can do that as a token of appreciation. One of these babies here, which is a very nice thing, which is a USB drive with the DojoLIVE logo engraved on it. So let me just tell me where to send it. We'll FedEx it to you right away. Okay. And well, folks, there it is. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, as ever. And we're going to be around in 2018. Stay tuned for more great, awesome interviews with experts like you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.